Welcome back. It was a very short break, but we got everything all set up, and we got the next of our plentiful yappers and ball knowers, analysts, whatever you want to call us. Sleeper, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Somber. It's wonderful to be here. Unfortunately, UT Arlington didn't win that last match. On my bracket, I had them winning, so I'm now currently 12 or 14 on our fun little analyst prediction thing that we have going on for this season. But we're here. We got another great match ahead of us, and it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, my bracket was chalked with Knipiak. I feel so bad. Pyro actually added me in his post game tweet talking about I'm sorry I couldn't we couldn't do it, and I was like, bro, y'all played great. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just Rhyolite different, bro. But we were again. We got some other it's probably spicy upsets, and insider knowledge from Nation Utah Valley. He's saying is going to be our next upset of the night, as Houston was our first one, but Idaho State, EJ has been that man for quite a bit here in the CCS, and they've had some really impressive results. So Utah Valley, high expectations for them just based off the Nation vouch.
I mean, yeah, Idaho State. They're also they're conference champions after taking down NAU once again, and I was on that broadcast. It seemed pretty dominating. I mean, there were some good looks from NAU, but overall, Idaho State were looking very fantastic that day. So I'm expecting Idaho State to do really good here today.
Yeah, I mean they had a pretty routine run of things in the regular season. I mean they did catch a sweep against NAU, but they got the run back in playoffs and got the job done in 6. So maybe a best of 7 format gives them a little bit more legs or a little bit more room to stretch their legs. Whereas Utah Valley actually finished above UTA, who we just saw, and also lost to them in 6. So I mean, we can go into the whole, UTA just lost and Utah Valley lost to them. Is Idaho State better than Houston? We can try to play the mental gymnastics, but I think at the end of the day, you're going up against a conference champion. You are the 2 seed out of your own group, out of your own conference. I think it's going to really come down to how hot Utah Valley starts the game off and how long it takes Idaho State to regain. Because kind of what we saw in that Houston UTA, me and Taquito were talking, heading into game 2, it was like, hey, game 1, Houston started off hot. It took them a little bit to get warmed up, but if UTA is able to respond quickly, momentum can shift. And first 2 games are going to be really important for Utah Valley if they want to try to pull off the upset here.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's 12 people on their brackets that have UTA pulling off that upset. Today is a whole big upset day. We have some of the biggest upset matches that on people's brackets. All of them are today. Funnily enough, later on we got WSU and then Rutgers UConn. Those are also 2 huge games with upset picks. But there's 12 people with their brackets with the Utah Valley upset over Idaho State. So there's a lot of people also kind of banking on the Utah Valley to start off hot and try and take that upset win over the Bengals here.
Yeah, it's again, we saw what Idaho State did with their last run. We've seen how good they have looked and how consistent they've looked. I think it's going to need to take I won't say a lot, trying to exaggerate, but like it is going to take quite a bit to knock them off their game and kind of get them from the poise that they usually play with. But we've seen that anything can happen in Rocket League, as I believe we have everyone in here. No, it looks like we're missing 1. We got 5 in, so we're just waiting for Utah Valley to get their 3rd in. But Idaho State was in here early. They're about that business. They want to go ahead and just wrap things up, try to get this one in the books and head on to that round 2 so they can make their run. I think that this is a team that does have upset potential if they make it later on in the bracket. I don't think that I have them picked to upset anyone, but I would not be surprised if they did. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting match, and hopefully we see a little bit more back and forth than what we saw in our first match of the evening.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I personally, I have Idaho State winning this one 4-2. I do think that Utah Valley, they are a good squad. I haven't seen enough of them of myself to really get the good eye test for this squad, but I do think they are
Yeah.
quite capable. But I still think that Idaho State is a much better team going into this series. So I think it'll be 4-2 for the Bengals in this one.
Yeah, I think I have a 4-2 as well for Idaho State. Just because, again, it's what they've already done. Utah Valley, they have a lot to prove here. Idaho State, they've been dancing before. This is their second run at things. They were able to get a conference championship win from the lower side of the bracket against NAU, who's another stacked squad. But it looks like everyone's in. So let's go ahead and head down to the pitch and get things started for our second match of the night.
Yeah, also, I have every single bracket pulled up so I can fact check you. You have Idaho State in 4-1, so
4-1. Okay, I wanted to try to correct myself, but I was like, maybe 6. I kind of hedged there, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have the eye test, right? That is truly where a lot of the picks come from, is off of vibes and the eye test. And right now the eye test is showing a crossbar instead of a goal here for Utah Valley to open things up. But they look to stay on the attack. Squiddy looking to just chase one down. Does get some boost out of the corner. EJ, low resources, but does find a big dunk 50. And this ball is just going to linger here at the midfield. Wait for someone to collect. It will be Squiddy for Utah Valley. 2 men on the backboard. Adams will go here for Idaho State. A nice fling downfield from Ultramag will not register as a shot, but be a little bit threatening. And now going to be Idaho State to start their attack.
Yeah, Idaho State stuck in their own half for the first 30 seconds of the game, but they're finally able to break out here, get a little bit of an offensive push going. Adams to the center. That infield pass is going to be cut off. Now EJ is going to be popping it up high, looking to break open the score, and Bilu able to clear that one out. Squiddy back down the other way, meeting up with Pink off the backboard. One last chance, but it's going to be sent away off of that goalpost from Idaho State. They're able to stave off the next attack.
The big pinch off your own crossbar and very favorable, and maybe a favorable bump as well. EJ low boost, but not able to finish the attack. Pink into the corner. Adams to intercept. That was going to go dangerously mid and had a man there for Utah Valley. Pink trying to continue the push through the corner. Ultramag now trying to track this one down. Does not find the 50, but will find a little bit of a hug there on the sidewall. Mess up Squiddy just a touch. Bilu there to receive. A clear attempt by EJ. Adams out of the corner. One more touch needed. Needs to find a nice read here and does just that. Nice little recovery onto the sidewall. No shot from EJ, but demo on the back line might open things up just a touch. Ultramag in the midfield trying to keep this one in the green half here in favor of Idaho State. Nice little pop by EJ to the sidewall. We go again. No read available, but Squiddy will find the clear down central. And it's going to be Utah Valley again trying to mount an attack here to break the stalemate.
Yeah, 0-0 scoreline still. 2 minutes going off the clock. Squiddy, he gets an open attempt. Saved at the last second by Adam S. Now Pink through the corner one more time. Not going to come to fruition. Good challenge there by Bilu. Setting up Squiddy down below. Ultramag is able to put it away, but this relenting attack from Utah Valley just keeps compounding over and over. Eventually, you think something is going to go through, and there it is. Pink and Squiddy meet up to connect on that one, and now Utah Valley have opened up the scoring.
It's a great cut at the midfield by Squiddy as well. Just full U-turn and center, and able to get that one all the way through. Just before halftime, they take their lead. Pink, nice cheat off the kickoff. Will not find one more touch. Looks like maybe a little bit of a phase through the car. Bilu will find a clear all the way to the other side of the Idaho State half. Squiddy's up, but not before Ultramag can find the touch. Pink on the back line, low boost. Maybe not the best grab there in the corner of that full tank, and should have left it up to a teammate, but you are up by 1. Can kind of forgive some of these little transgressions. Looking for 2 was Squiddy, but defense by combination coming out by Idaho State. Big demo and a big bump. EJ just has to find the turnaround. Cannot find it. It's almost an own goal, and Bilu will find the clear as a little bit of some spaghetti defense coming out. Everyone getting messed up, but we still have a 1-goal lead here for Utah Valley.
Yeah, at the end of all of that, Somber, Utah Valley still has a lead, 1-0, a minute 40 still on the clock. Eventually, you think something's going to go the way for Idaho State here, but they've just been having a very tough time trying to clear it out of their own half. That midfield presence has not been looking too solid here to start this series as they finally get a clear upfield here. Squiddy able to turn it away. The defense from Utah Valley also has been playing very capably here so far. EJ through the corner. Squiddy already up on the backboard to try and send it away. Adams trying to put it back on target. A little bit of a save there using your own net. A little bit hectic, but able to push it all the way down the field. Now Bilu off of the corner. Going to pop it off the backboard. Bump on the net as well. Pink sends a second through.
Utah Valley is just seemingly making every right decision on offense while making every wrong decision on defense, but it does not fall through for Idaho State. They get their second on the board, and it was a beautiful play and show of aggression here by Utah Valley, and that's exactly what you need against a team like Idaho State. You need to come out full swinging, kind of just show your cards maybe a little bit and say, hey, this is what you have to contend with. This is what you have to play up to, and see if your opponent on that day has it. And Ultra Mag has a absolute snipe, goes top bins over the defense. Gonna be actually just a drop down pass, and EJ harassing the back line, forces 2 to go. 45 seconds, only down by 1. Idaho State still have a chance to tie here.
And I mean, that was just such a great team play from the Bengals there. You had Ultramag setting up Adam S already high up in the sky, sending it back down to EJ, slots it top left corner around the defense, and that's looks like the kind of offense you need to try and bring to the table to take down Utah Valley. But the Wolverines, all they need to do is just get a couple looks towards nets, and it just breaks down the Bengals on the back line.
That was maybe the laggiest bump that I've ever seen. It looked like he just missed the car entirely, but then next thing you know, Ultra Mag's on the backboard and you're back down by 2, under 30 ticks to go. EJ demo in net, shot goes high and rattles off the crossbar. Squiddy will find a secondary touch over to Pink. Ultra Mag ends up putting it wayward into their own corner. Pink already up, gets the beat over EJ. Is Utah Valley hunting for a 4th one with time expiring. Flip reset, could not get it back center. Squiddy turn around, shoot, EJ backline catch, able to find one. Trying to push the pace down the pitch, find one more to go. Gets the skim touch, but a save comes through for Utah Valley. And it's going to be Idaho State still fighting. Bilu will find a clear out, and that is how we wrap up game 1 here, folks. Utah Valley, they escape some really scary situations early game, but they lock it down and are able to absolutely throttle Idaho State in that latter half.
Yeah, like you said, Somber, Utah Valley, they weren't looking too fantastic, you could say, on their own half, but they were still able to lock it down and somehow find a way to come away with those saves and keep the ball out of their net for a majority of the game, only allowing 1 goal on 8 shots on the side of Idaho State. I mean, their defense really was locked down, and the biggest difference to me was the midfield presence. Utah Valley just seemed to have much more control over that midfield of the pitch rather than Idaho State, because the Bengals are having just such a tough time trying to break out of their own half, and that's really when the worst came to pass, is when they were stuck back on their own half for extended periods of time. Utah Valley, they just kept peppering shots towards the back of the net, and then a couple passes later, they managed to find their way into the net and get a 3-1 victory here in game number 2. So going forwards, the rest of the series, that's the one switch up I want to see here from Idaho State, is get a little bit more of that midfield presence and take more control of the ball as they move it down the field.
Yeah, which is going to be tough for Utah Valley. I think the way that they dominated the midfield was they were quick and aggressive on their rotations. They were not afraid to cut. They were not afraid to say, hey, if I'm last man back, I know that I already have 2 people. They may be opposite side, but they're still rotating back. I'm going to take this little bit of a risky play and hit the E-brake and turn around and just try to make a play. And they were able to win out a lot of those 50s and take possession away from Idaho State. So, it's tough to avoid early challenges. We saw UTA start to struggle later in their series against Houston against early challenges, but definitely needs to be something in the back of Idaho State's mind going throughout the rest of this best of 7. Again, you've only dropped one game. It's not the end of the world. You got to read. I feel like Utah Valley, they've shown you a lot of what they want to do on the offensive side, and the mistakes on the defense, those need to tighten up for Utah Valley, because Idaho State will not leave those unpunished for longer than that first game.
That's absolutely right. Now EJ, great catch there, able to break it to the midfield line, but again, that's just where Utah Valley has been lying in wait, able to clear this ball. But now Bilu able to get a great touch there, actually keeping that one out of the net. EJ trying to set up Idaho State one more time. That's just going to be straight towards the net. A little team pinch there, keeping that one out again, and it's more of that spaghetti-ish defense, like you said, Somber, that we're seeing from Utah Valley, but it's currently working. Not anymore, though. EJ scores.
Yeah, it was currently working about 10 seconds ago, but currently it's not working anymore. They were able to finally break through with a little bit of pressure, just over a minute played, and seeing if Idaho State can maybe build on this lead, as Utah Valley has been able to show that they can score in rapid succession and start to put up a few goal lead and find a little bit of a safety net. So Idaho State will try to find one of their own, but Utah Valley trying to find their equalizing goal and trying to break down the defense of Idaho State. Bilu, maybe a little bit of an erroneous touch there, but we'll find the backboard. Squiddy a bit awkward, able to put it to the sidewall. One more touch, no, will be denied by Ultramag. They're able to fight through another 50. EJ now to beat. It's bumped, but able to fight through the contact. Finds Adams down below. Adams to put the shot on, and this is the Idaho State we are used to seeing.
I just don't know what Utah Valley is doing here. They have two players jumping up for that ball. Neither of them really in the path to get a touch on it. Leaves the net completely wide open. Ball drops down to the attacker in EJ, and he just sends it towards the net, and he finds the shot.
Yeah, Idaho State has been really good about running kind of the two-man offense down the field and finding these quick outlet passes, and then someone's just kind of camping mid, or you're able to turn it into a solo play effort. And if they can start to dial back into that at home base style of offense and get back to their flavor of Rocket League that they love to play, it's going to be a very tough regain for Utah Valley. But again, we've seen them be able to score in bunches. They just need to be able to break through this defense and see what they can get away with, see what will work for them in this game too, as Idaho State obviously coming with a different game plan. Bilu looking for a low dribble play, and that will just be a breakaway goal for Adams, as a little bit of an overcommit by Utah Valley will lead to just a big fling goal and a nice 50 from Adams.
I don't know much that you can do about that. Squiddy is right up at the midfield line facing forwards. I mean, when you have Bilu on the ball up in the opponent's corner like that, you don't really expect a challenge to fling all the way back into your net, but that is what ended up happening for Idaho State. Now Pink able to slot that one through. Defense not able to, they were able to get a hand up, but just not enough, as it ricochets off and goes through for goal number 1 for the Wolverines. They're finally able to get some offense going, but I just got to say, Somber, the defense that Utah Valley showed up with here today, we saw in game 1, it looked rough, but is at the same time fantastic. But with the defense like that, that's not going to work the whole time, and we're seeing it here start to topple over in game number 2, as EJ has a second for himself as well.
Yeah, the defense was very unpolished. The nuts and bolts were there, and there was a little bit of a foundation, but you weren't getting the cleanest touches. You were trying to utilize your own post, but almost own goaling, and it just so happened to be that there was no cleanup man available for Idaho State to make you punish you on that mistake. But the same mistakes, we're seeing a little bit of over aggression, as they saw the aggression plays work out in game 1 and lead to a victory. So they're trying to replicate that success. But Idaho State a little privy to the idea that Utah Valley is trying to come into this game number 2 with, and they just are not able to break down the same way that they were in game number 1, but still fighting through it. You got just under 2 minutes to go. Bilu looking for Pink in the midfield, and it will go. There's another whiff on the back line. That has been now back-to-back goals conceded by Idaho State, where it's just a simple touch coming off your own post, and it's a misflip, not enough boost, some kind of simple mistake. Got to be able to clean up on those, because despite being up by 3, now 2 can very easily slip away from you.
Yeah, especially with a minute 45 still on the clock here. And like you were saying, Simon, just awkward position, awkward boost amount, as the Wolverines have punished twice on that now. But the Bengals have done a much better job on this field here, keeping the ball away from their half as much as possible, but they've really commanded that midfield a lot more, which is what I wanted to see out of Idaho State. And since they're doing that, they have succeeded over and over again, as Adams now, he picks up a hat trick here in game 2.
Yeah, success is definitely the name to put on this game 2 and kind of stamp Idaho State with. Is they've been successful at the midfield. They've been successful on their 50s. They've been successful on the counterattacks, on the team plays. Everything just seems to finally be clicking. Maybe that game 1 really, truly was just a warm-up in Utah Valley. Came out a little bit too spicy for them to handle right off rip. But EJ now looking for a fancy shot. Finds the double, but cannot find it. Ultramag back to Adams. They find the post yet again. They will roll up. EJ pancake back down, denied by Squiddy. Pink out of the corner. Half tank of boost to work with, and under a minute remaining, they're able to get that one down to Bilu. Bilu gonna pre-jump the corner, cannot find it. EJ will find a clear out. Bilu, a little bit of a mistake touch there, but defense able to regain, and still only a 3-goal lead somehow for Idaho State.
Yeah, but look at for EJ, he's trying to set it up once again. Ultramag is there, pops it high off the backboard. It's a little too close to get a touch on target. Adams shot just high of the net as well. Still 3-goal lead here for Idaho State. They did a much better job here in game 2. They really took that in-between time to talk it over and figure out what Utah Valley were doing, and they have been able to break it down on every single third of the pitch. On the defense, they've really cleaned it up a lot more. And the midfield, they've taken more command, and on the offense, they are clicking together as a team a lot more than they were in game 1, really breaking down that back line of the Wolverines. So we have an even series on our hands, and the Bengals are setting themselves up nicely for a very fun series here the rest of the way for them.
Yeah, and in all reality, and if you want to talk about, you know, ifs and buts, but this really should have been a 5-0 game for Idaho State. They had 2 very simple mistakes that I don't foresee being big pain points for them going on throughout. Looks like they're still warming up despite putting up 5 goals with a lot of pressure off of shots. You're putting up 13 shots. Still shooting 5 for 13 is very insane. But Utah Valley, we saw in game 1, they can be aggressive. They can disrupt that back line for Idaho State, and getting the transitions from Idaho State is what a majority of their offense was coming out of that game. I think that both of those saves led to goals down the pitch. So Utah Valley got to just slow it down a little bit, take your foot off the gas. We're creeping up a little bit too far as third man. We're getting beat. Know that 50s can go wayward and go over the top of your head and be on target and be in your net. So play a little bit deeper back. Keep the aggression up. I like what I'm seeing out of their front 2 men, but I'd like to see that third take a little bit of a step back, and they could put themselves right back in this series.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a over-aggression mark from Utah Valley here. And going to game number 3, they got to change up how they're bringing it to the table here, because we saw them play pretty similarly between game 1 and 2. And as we saw, Idaho State was really able to make up for a lot of what happened in game number 1 and really turn it around on the heads of Utah Valley. So they got to come in with a little bit of a different game plan and find a way to get it past Idaho State a lot more here and really polish up that defense.
Yeah, I think the more resonating term would be retool. You got to retool the game plan. Don't have to throw it out the window and do everything different. It's just do a couple tweaks. Again, mainly on the defensive side. We didn't see them try to utilize their own post for a lot of saves, which was absolutely fantastic. Because, like I said, if you tried to continue to play that style of defense where you're trying to get these crazy pinches and it just doesn't go that way, Idaho State was going to punish. We saw that lacking. We see a nice shot on target, but it will be saved away by EJ. A follow-up shot will be soft, and it will be dunked by Bilu. As, again, Idaho State just a little bit too frazzled on their own back line, and Utah Valley stayed with the play, stayed aggressive, stayed up, and this is what Utah Valley needs to do. That first man needs to be as aggressive as possible and let the people behind him cook up a little bit. Yeah,
it was just too long to challenge that from Idaho State. They let that one get all the way towards their goal line before they decided that they wanted to turn on the ball. And as we saw, it was a dunk play that ended up in the back of their net. Now Ultramag, he had a shot. That one somehow managing to stay out. Now no follow-up going to come from Idaho State. EJ's challenge will go back into their own half. Able to get a touch towards the corner, trying to let a teammate try and clear that up, but it's right into the hands of Squiddy. He's going to try and take that one through the corner. Adams gets dunked by Pink. Still keeping control of the ball on the offensive half. Leaves that one for Bilu. It's dropping down. Adams able to push that one out to the sidewall, keep that one away from being dangerous. Now trying to get that transition play upfield. It hasn't really been connecting here. And they've had a couple chances on offense, Idaho State have, but they really haven't been able to connect on that finalizing shot to push it through to the net.
Yeah, I've really liked what I've seen in terms of adjustments so far out of Utah Valley. Going up by one, we saw the pinch play on defense actually be appropriate this time. I feel like I'm harping on that. I'm not. I truly am not. I don't want Utah Valley to think that I've beaten up on them. It was just an interesting decision in game one, but they are making these acrobatic plays and now starting to play with a little bit more tempo, I would say. They're not just going all gas, no brakes. They're able to switch up pace of play. Squiddy with a nice touch into the corner. EJ gets bumped off the play. Ultramag is there to clear out of danger. Adams touches it right back to the side while where B. Lou is waiting. It'll be Squiddy to clean up the play. Touchdown and a little bit of a bump play by EJ on the back wall. Pink with a nice pinch out. We'll find the ceiling and we'll find B. Lou. This is going to be a free and clear open net. Catching Idaho State maybe a little bit too aggressive there.
Yeah, aggressive was one thing. Adams going for the challenge with no boost in the tank. Left the back line completely wide open. It's a 2-0 lead now for Utah Valley. Looking to try and take game number 2 here against the Bengals, but still 2 minutes on the clock. Never want to count out Idaho State with such a quality roster that they are. It's just when they've gotten down in series, they've had a hard time adjusting mid-game to the level that Utah Valley has been throwing at them. Now Adams trying to go for another attempt, but not a great touch. Ends up into the hands of Bilu to get the clear out back into that orange half.
Yeah, and something that, I mean, like you said, going down in series, it's been tough for this Idaho State roster to kind of bounce back and find consecutive games won after dropping them. Ultramag will find an absolutely lovely goal center of net there, but I want to bring up again, NAU swept this team in the regular season. Now they took it in 6, but I feel like that can be very telling of a team, especially like Utah Valley. Now having been in the lobby with them a little bit and seeing kind of how these players are starting to gel together, it reminds me a little bit of NAU, mainly because we're trying for tempo plays and trying for mechanics, but the defense quite isn't there and up to the pedigree that it should be. Pink tried to get the touch there. Adams just able to break the ankles of the defense, and Bilu caught out a little bit too early on that jump. It will be 2 in succession here for Idaho State.
This is exactly why you can't count them out either, because just like that, in 45 seconds, they managed to rattle off 2 goals since the last I talked about it, at least, and now they're right back into it. And there was a great showing of what their offense is capable of as well, because he had Adams on the backboard with the ball. He had both Ultramag and EJ in front of the net to try and go to, depending on what he wanted to do, one on the far side, one on the near side. So they have multiple options of how they want to attack the offense. That it seems to be all the time is that Idaho State, they have multiple options. They're not narrowed into one lane that they have to try to attack to. They are creative and great players to be able to open up multiple lanes of scoring for themselves. As that's a great stop there by Utah Valley, and that's the kind of defense that Utah Valley needs to continue to bring to the table to shut down offenses like Idaho State.
Yeah, the early challenges that we saw from game 1 out of Utah Valley just have not really been here in game 3. We're starting to see them come out when we're seeing shots like that. Oh my goodness, Squiddy Almost let that one through, but they are able to get a little bit of a pre-jump. Empty net. Nope. It will be 0 seconds. I was going to say 1 second left on the clock, but that 1 second ate up the bounce, and Ultramag is able to keep it just above the ground, put it center of net, and Idaho State complete a 3-goal swing to come back and win game number 2 here.
Yeah, that was a great showing from Idaho State. They really changed it up in the middle of the game. It seemed like they really picked up their pace and were managing to get better challenges and better looks on the offense against Utah Valley. I mean, 6 saves from the side of the Wolverines. They only had 2 shots, which I think is the most surprising thing to me. It seemed like they were on offense a little bit more than that, but they just weren't able to convert on those shot opportunities. The ball clearly a lot more in the neutral zone of the field than I anticipated there, but Idaho State managing to turn it around and complete the comeback.
Yeah, and I mean, both sides were pretty quick into the next game, so both sides feeling like this is a game to, just keep it rolling. Utah Valley, they needed to keep it rolling, and again, you gave them an inch, took it a mile, and they ran with it. Were able to just 3 straight goals, 0 seconds to boot. The overtime may have gone in favor of Utah Valley, but we will never know. That 0 second was able to go through. That bounce was so favorable for Idaho State, and so is the kickoff. 5 seconds is all it takes for EJ to get on the board here in game number 4, as Idaho State looks to put this one on ice, going up 3-1 in the series.
Yeah, Bilu was on that sidewall, had a little bit of a heavy-handed touch, and it just went to the other side of the pitch. EJ, he saw the ball, and he was already cutting over to cut that one off and sends it through the net. So 1-0 lead, almost Utah Valley getting it right back here. Still in the offensive half, trying to set it up one more time, but the defense of Idaho State connecting together to get clear down. Now EJ looking to go top left. It's just off target. Adams with the follow-up, still saved away by Utah Valley. Now the transition upfield, trying to tie it up here, still saved away by Ultramag.
Ultramag again trying to carry this one through the corner. Bilu will play a little bit of a disruptor there. Pink looking to put a shot on target. EJ right in the face of the shooter. Will now drop. One more touch needed. Bilu not able to find a second out of the corner. Able to find one there, though. It will be a shot on target after a nice doink. Pink just trying to rotate back. EJ on the breakaway. Puts it mid, but no teammate available. Will be Pink to clear out. They have a little bit of boost, and Bilu waiting down below. Patch gets away from them, but they will find a 50 in the corner. One more out of the corner. No, cannot make contact. Squiddy. Flip reset, tries to go dunk against EJ, but EJ will win that battle. Adams down the pitch, wave dash into the ball, but finds his way into the corner off the challenge. Double commit by Utah Valley, but will still continue on the attack. Everyone clustered up for Utah Valley at the midfield. Ultramag puts a shot into the corner after a great last second touch from the midfield by the defense. Drop shot will not go. Pink puts a clear out. Bilu trying to find one more. EJ trying to carry this one around over to Adams. Pink to intercept. Ultramag with a shot on target, and that one will fire through. A lot of back and forth midfield play, and it will be Ultramag and Idaho State to be the first to finally break through the aggression.
Yeah, Ultramag back from his own half just before that midfield line, and that's where the third defender of Utah Valley was as well, right in their own half, but on that midfield line trying to turn back. But before then, it was a little too late as Ultramag, he had an absolute banger of a shot towards the net and finds a second here for Idaho State. Now looking for a third, setup for Adams just under the crossbar, and he will send it through. 3-0 lead now for Idaho State here with 3 minutes on the clock.
Right now, the defense from Idaho State is giving me Utah Valley defense from game 1, where it's a little bit too sloppy for my liking, but they do find the counter downfield, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But would like to see them clean things up, as we've seen leads evaporate in this series. Gonna be EJ trying to run interference. Pink no boost, able to grab one more pad and speed flip through the corner, but will not find anyone on their own team. Pass over to Ultramag on the sidewall. Big dunk on the read. Bilu off the back wall. Will fling it down the pitch. EJ goes as last man. Will find the touch, but have been a little bit dangerous here for Idaho State. Pink, no boost to follow through on the play. Adams off the dish from Ultramag. We'll find a pop-up at the midfield. B-Lou to continue the play. Flip a reset over one. Cannot find the beat past Ultramag. Demo on the back line. Forces Squiddy to go. They do get the bump on one. Infield passing play will connect. EJ finds a fourth.
This is the exact offense that Idaho State are very good at. It was Adams over to Ultramag, back over to EJ. I mean, you had Ultramag. He could have taken the shot. He opted for the pass instead, and EJ went near side where the defender was not thinking the shot would be at. And that's just how good Idaho State are. Once again, I said it before, but it seems like they have multiple lanes on every time they go up for the attack, and they are also very good at getting those passes and meeting up with each other to both get the ball upfield and to try and force it through the defensive line of Utah Valley. Here as Adams, he will pick up another one here. That'll be his second here in this game, as they're now up 5-0.
They got the, oh, it was a skim touch. I thought they got the pinch off of that because I saw Ultramag pop up with the assist, and I was like, ain't no way he got the touch, but it was a little bit of a skim, little pinch. But 5-0, again, we saw the two mistakes that were capitalized on in game number 2, and it should have been a 5-0. Idaho State still was warming up. They are fully warm. It is now 5-0 in their favor, but Utah Valley, they're looking to put at least something on the board for some momentum in what will be more than likely a monumental hill to climb. Will be Adams, goes early but cannot find the touch. Maybe just trying to bump or dodge the bump from Squiddy. That will be a nice double tap from B-Lou. It is soft, but it will go in, as defense thought that it was going to be off, but he's able to sneak it under the crossbar. Yeah,
just nice few touches off of the backboard there, and that's the kind of creativity Utah Valley needs on the offense here if they want to try and break down Idaho State. Now that they're warmed up, now that their defense is looking rock solid, that's kind of what you have to do if you want to try and score those goals. But it's just, again, the defense and midfield from Utah Valley hasn't looked too great here in the last couple games. There's just Adams. They're already up 5-1. He's just being a little uncouth at this point, getting a demo on the last man, and that's just rude. That's just rude.
I appreciate the $10 word on broadcast. Uncouth is not one you hear very often, but we love it. 6-1. Maybe we're planning a trip to South America right now. Adams will get a soft touch up and play this one back down below. Could not get it past the defense underneath. Squiddy out of the corner. Under a minute to play in Utah Valley, probably just trying to play time here. Maybe we look for one for the road, but do not want to concede anymore, as that will just lead to a more crooked score line here in favor of Idaho State, and it will be a missed touch at the midfield. Squiddy with the credit. B-Lou does get credit for the assist, and I believe it was Adams to last touch it. Yeah, Adams thought that they could get that one across the pitch, but end up sending it right back into their own net. Ultramag to really make sure that one goes through. 6-2 the score line. I don't think that we're going to get the Brazil now.
Unfortunately, with 2 goals on the side of Utah Valley, there's no chance for a Brazil, but 6-2 still. I mean, it's just been the offense of Idaho State has been the difference maker between game 1 and the last couple of games, because their defense, they've still had a few mistakes here and there, but it's really been their offense that has really stepped up their game, because they had a 5-goal breakout in the last one, and now they have 6 here in game number 4, just really continuing that trajectory of looking super rock solid on the offensive half.
Yeah, and also with the goals conceded, it has just been simple mistakes, and it's like, yeah, if you make the simple mistake and you just don't jump at a ball, it's going to go in. It hasn't really been anything from Utah Valley that has been too threatening. We haven't seen the lethality that we saw in game 1 and 3 as B-Lou gets another just beautiful double tap to go in, but 0 seconds on the clock. I feel like Idaho State is fine giving up a goal right there, especially with them putting up 6 of their own that weren't just open at breakaway plays. But Idaho State firmly in the driver's seat after dropping game 1. They've now won 3 straight. They head to a game 5 for this one on triple match point.
I mean, yeah, Idaho State 3-1 in the series. They are looking to try and close it out here in this next game, but Utah Valley, they do have a couple positives. They were able to get a couple goals, and again, they are able to take advantage of those few mistakes that Idaho State had on the defensive end and get those 3 goals through. But at the end of the day, it is a fresh scoreline, 0-0 with 5 fresh minutes on the clock, so it's really anybody's game here in this next one.
Yeah, I feel like Utah Valley, it's the polishedness. Idaho State is much more polished. They're much more refined in their offense and in their defense. Again, like I said, simple mistakes, those can be tightened up on. I think that they just start to come late game when they're already up by, several goals. But Bilu, not going to make that one a simple goal. Snipes it past 2 defenders, and this is what we need. We need a player to step up, and we saw it throughout the latter half of last game, and now to kick things off in game number 5, Bilu trying their best to swing momentum here for Utah Valley.
Yeah, he had 2 goals for them in that last game after on a 3-goal outing. Now he has the first one here. That one almost towards the net, but just off target. Pink trying to secure it, but bounces it off target, just off of the crossbar as well, and out. Now EJ is going to be able to send that one upfield. That was a great opportunity there for Utah Valley. Just couldn't capitalize on it. Still have a 1-0 lead. Trying to make it 2 here still on the offensive half, and there's just one last thing I want to point out from the last game is they did have a majority of the field domination. Utah Valley did. The ball was on that orange half most of the game, but it's just they weren't able to capitalize and take possession and advantage of the ball being on that side of the field for so long.
Yeah, I feel like pressure defense is where Idaho State's defensive side or defensive aspect of their game really excels. When they're having to put up with lots of shots, lots of threats, it's on the counters because they kind of get lost in the sauce on the counters. They have someone upfield a little bit too much. They burn through a lot of their boosts and don't grab pads on the way back. It's just something is not there on the counterattack defense. So that's where we're seeing the goals conceded, but not very many given up when you're having 3 shots, 4 shots in a row on your net. But we'll see if Utah Valley can kind of stay privy to that little nugget of information and try to play a little bit less field domination and possession and time spent in the orange half and just try to snipe the crossbar. It's going to find its way out. I was going to say they could find some more snipes in net, but no, defense again pulls out as the strong suit on that side of the pitch there for Idaho State.
Oh, that was such a good opportunity to open a multi-goal lead, but it's just the shooting accuracy this time is becoming the hindrance of Utah Valley. And it's just off of the crossbar once again and out. And before they had a man crashing, it was a little too late as there's finally somebody from Idaho State to challenge the ball and try and get it out of the net. And they got a good challenge and successfully did it. Now on the offensive half, our Idaho State, that one, oh my goodness, just off target as well. We've had so many near misses here in game 5 for both teams now.
Not just game 5, the whole series has been a whole lot of should be goals. And I think if we're going off of hypotheticals, series count, the aggregate's about even on should be goals. And that one definitely was in that category. EJ looking to shoot on a relatively open net. Back-to-back pings here for Idaho State. Pink can't make contact. They are able to get the drop back down, and Bilu looks to clear it out. Witty now, a little bit of boost, trying to just play the 50 game against Ultramag. We'll keep this one contained in the orange half. Pink, one more touch. They end up pancaking it down. Going to stall out their attack just a bit. Squiddy, cross pitch, looking for Bilu. EJ already up, touch to the ceiling. Harsh bounce down. Pink, and pinch that one right back over into the hands of Adams, though. They're not the best player here for Idaho State that you want to concede that ball over to, as they have been the man to initiate these 3-man passing plays. Pass over to EJ, and again, the playmaker does just that. Gets it into the hands of their hottest shooter, EJ, able to equalize.
Yeah, the rotations from Utah Valley, there was just nobody left to try and make a challenge on EJ when he was receiving the ball, and you can't give him that much space because he will take advantage of it. And he has that shooting accuracy to push it through. We've seen it all series. He knows how to shoot it well on target, and with space like that, he's going to do nothing but score goals for Idaho State. Now they look to try and get a second here. It's into the hands of EJ. Takes advantage of it. Flicks off of the crossbar. Pink able to get a touch out before Adams can crash on that ball. Able to push this one out, but for how long? Utah Valley trying to set up the offense is going to be pushed away by Idaho State.
Big demo to keep this one in the orange half. Pink, it's beat out by EJ, but Squiddy right there to clean up the play. Trying to get it back infield, but again, right back into the hands of Adams. Has bodyguard down the pitch. B-Lou with a big dunk 50, and it's going to find the upper 90. B-Lou shows the aggression, and it pays off.
The step up from Bilu has been exactly what Utah Valley has needed. He had 2 goals in the last game. He has both of the goals in this game. He has been the offensive rock that Utah Valley has needed. He stepped up in a major way here, getting the go-ahead goal as well with 40 seconds on the clock. Idaho State back in their own half once again. Like we've seen a majority of this series, they got to find a way to break out and take control of the ball in the offensive half. That's just it. Ultra Mag, the shot, top right, saved away by Pink. No follow-up quite yet. Now Adams going to be off the backboard, centered for EJ. The shot just off a target. He had a needle to thread. Unfortunately, couldn't find it through this time. Like trying to needle a camel through the eye of a pin. Now trying to set it up one more time. That's in the air. 2 seconds. Now 1-0. EJ sets it through to the net. Pushed away by Utah Valley. Still in the air. Adams has some boost and control. Leaving that one for EJ. Sending it upfield. A little bit of space. Squiddy puts that one towards open fields though. It hits the ground. We have game number 6.
0-second drill for Idaho State will be denied on this go around, but Utah Valley showing they still have a dog in this fight. And again, it's Bilu. They may have not gotten the MVP performance on the scoreboard, but they got the MVP performance in our hearts. That was an absolutely stellar game from them. 2 for 3, 5 saves coming out from Pink. So really holding down that back line. And again, Idaho State, you may not have won the field domination, but not very on target for either of these squads. For Idaho State. The shots from Utah Valley, they have been succinct. You only have 1 save to your name. The goals that came through, they have just been accurate. You haven't had to do much, but a combined 11 shots on target with only 1 goal to speak of for Idaho State. That crossbar and that post is their absolute worst nightmare right now.
Yeah, I mean, Utah Valley, they are starting the slow climb back to try and get back into it. And we saw the boost game for Idaho State was just a little bit better. They had more average boost than Utah Valley, but in the end, they really had a tough time again trying to break out. They really couldn't break down that backline defense from Utah Valley. They showed up in a big way there, as 19 seconds is all it takes for this game.
Yeah, this is not the first North American error in Neo Tokyo's corner that we have seen in recent history. Double commit turns into a team bump, and yeah, it's going to be an early concession here for Utah Valley. But again, we have seen them put on plenty of offense to get things going. Nice touch back into Adams. I don't know if that was an error or if maybe it was just a smart play from EJ, but we keep it alive here in the green half of the Wolverines. EJ, we're gonna get this one back towards the back wall. Squiddy not able to find the pinch, but it will be Pink to take over. EJ, big dunk win by Pink. They're able to launch that one back downfield. Bilu, soft touch to the midfield stripe. Ultra Mag. This has a wide open net. Might be able to get the read, but no! It was EJ! They blocked Ultra Mag on a wide open read, and that could have been a 2-goal lead for Idaho State.
Now EJ setting up Ultra Mag once again. Going to be cut off by Pink this time around. Adams has some space to work with. It ends up bouncing all the way back to his own half, still trying to take control of it. Now EJ up in the air, not able to get a touch on the ball, just has to try and leave it. Now Bilu is going to set up the offense for Utah Valley again. The defense from Idaho State a little bit awkward here. Now the Wolverines trying to break it down. Pink double touch towards the center. EJ sets up Adams. looking for that transition play from Idaho State we know all too well, but this time it falls right back into their own half, and Bilu is going to be there. Who better than him to get the first goal and the tying goal here in Game 6?
Pink with a nice solo play. Get the distraction play to the backboard. You get the defense a little bit awkward, and all you have to do is let Bilu shoot. He has done that in stellar fashion throughout this entire series, and particularly when they have looked their most down, he has been their spark of life here in this comeback attempt against Idaho State. Pink to the skies, now takes the ceiling, has the reset, cannot find the dunk though. Bilu keeps it alive right in front of the net. Ultramag will be able to clear it out to the sidewall and be Squiddy. Nice cut. EJ, awkward pinch, but Adams is there to clean up the play. Pink trying to find the gutter ball pass, will find it out to Bilu, and again, the man from Utah Valley that does nothing but score. Bilu strikes again, puts it just in front of Ultramag, snipes that bottom left corner. Utah Valley find their lead.
Just slinging that ball through bottom left. Utah Valley up 2-1. Still over half the game left to play. We've seen it many times in this series as well. You cannot sleep on Idaho State. You need to stay this consistent and play to this level the entire 5 minutes, because we saw what happened last time they let off the gas even slightly. That was game number 3. It ended up falling into the hands of Idaho State. They had a 3-goal swing to take the game. Now on Neo Tokyo here, they need to continue to play consistently to this level that they are showing so far here, as they are still once again back on the offensive half. Idaho State are used to playing on this side of the field for this series here, as they get an amazing goal line save there. Not try and find it into the offensive half, but they got to take possession away from Utah Valley here.
Taking away possession from Utah Valley has been the name of the game, and so far they've been pretty successful at that game. But Neo Tokyo, so different for so many reasons. That's just gonna be a long shot off the crossbar. EJ takes advantage of lax defense, and Utah Valley just got caught sleeping on their own back line. Bilu wanted to try to read this bounce a little bit too late, trying to play for maybe a clang or a catch, but EJ just says, "You're not gonna go, I will." Put it in the back of your net. Under 2 minutes left to go. We got equal yet again.
Yeah, and that shows like the boost game again, because Bilu, he had 12 boosts, 7 boosts left in his tank, so he had to try and go a little bit wide to get that ball out, but before then it was way too late, as EJ was already pouncing onto that ball. You can't let that time to let it drop right in front of your net as well, off of the big transition, everybody rushing to the ball. You can't allow that space for the opponents to get right up in your face about that. And Bilu also is not grabbing any of those pads on the way back. Now trying to push it into the offense for him once again. Ultramag able to challenge him this time around, as we still have an even game here. Pink, great challenge there to keep that one out of the hands of the offense of Idaho State.
EJ is just flying around the pitch. He was on the pre-jump and then challenged from behind on that ball. He is really just trying to play mega aggressive and try to catch Utah Valley out, lacking maybe just a little bit. Be a drop down pass over to Adams, and they put his center of net past the defense. Idaho State, they are on a tear. 2-goal swing yet again in their favor. They're up 3-2. Under a minute to play. Utah Valley, they are trying their best to stay aggressive and puncture the armor that Idaho State has put up on the defensive side, but the possession plays have not worked. They need to find breakaways. Pink trying to find a drop down pass. Bilu out of the corner. One more touch is needed. It's back center. Squiddy cannot make contact. EJ had gone early and it was an open net, but Bilu keeps the attack alive. One more touch into the corner. Adams now to win the 50. Over the top of Pink as well. And now Squiddy all the way back has to reset.
Is able to get a good boom upfield, though, in the midfield challenge, high in the air. Squiddy and Bilu both on that side trying to challenge the ball, and neither able to come away with it. Adams is just going to send it to the midfield. Ultramega is going to be there to put it towards the net, but at this point, it's just wasting time off the clock. One last try here. It's in the hands of Bilu towards the net, but it just hits the ground before the net. And Idaho State, they take it in 6 miraculously.
Oh man, that is heartbreaking. Halfway through the goal line, pixels away from a 0-second hero ball moment, but Idaho State, they escaped. There were some close games. They had to come back in game 2 and here in game number 6, but they get the job done. Utah Valley, unfortunately, this is your first time dancing, and it is a short dance indeed, but Idaho State, they've shown that they can go on runs here. They can play through some adversity, and they come out with a big win.
Yeah, and as their reward for taking down Utah Valley, they go on to face Michigan State. So that'll be a very tough matchup for them going forward. But Idaho State, they looked like a really solid roster here. I'm a little bit nervous for them going into the next round because there's a few mistakes that I really think a team like Michigan State, being the 1 seed in that division there in that side of the bracket, will be able to punish a lot more than what Utah Valley was able to do here.
Yeah, it is all to be seen. This was quite the series, and we had a game 5. We got a game 6. I'm sure a game 7 is in store for us, but I usually, as the host, I ask the person who's leaving the broadcast what their prediction is going to be. But I'm the one leaving, this is my last game of the night. But I will be sticking around for the absolute heaters, especially that A&T RMU match. That's going to be an absolute clanger. But this next one coming up, I love the boys for ECU. I just saw them on LAN. They're pumped. That roster is probably this is probably one of the last events that they're going to be playing in together. I want them to go out with a bang. I want them to get a big win. Give me ECU, man. Just for the story, just for the vibes. I love the boys over at East Carolina. I think that they take the dub. The vibes are good. Their mechs look great. Their gameplay all together looks absolutely fantastic. Give me ECU. But Sleeper, I know you're gonna have a lot of fun with that game.
Oh yeah, I'll be here bringing you the game with Fox. It'll be a fantastic game. We saw in the last season, Iowa State, they ended up being the one team that got upset quite big in the first round. So we'll see if it happens again. But we got to throw it to a little break, get those teams ready, and we'll be back in a little bit here to bring you Iowa State versus East Carolina.